Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Voice of Apple Valley podcast. I'm your host, Steve Famiano, and on this edition of the Voice of Apple Valley, we're going to do a deep dive. And what a deep dive is where we take a previous Voice of Apple Valley podcast discussion and we focus on one particular issue that comes out of that previous discussion. So on future podcasts that we do, we might do this every now and then where we take one specific issue and we really focus on some of the details in regards to that. Now, our previous debut podcast was a discussion on the Apple Valley Animal Shelter, and we had a pretty broad-based discussion about some of the concerns there and maybe some things that could be done to implement some different policies and some different procedures. After that podcast, I did some more research because I didn't know at the time, but this animal shelter thing is pretty deep. And that's a good thing we're doing a deep dive, because there's going to be some things we talk about here today that I had no idea were even happening. And overall, when you look at this animal shelter issue, yeah, there are specific issues that we have with the town of Apple Valley Animal Shelter, but we have an animal shelter crisis, really across the country. And we have a lot of people releasing their animals, surrendering their animals to shelters, releasing them out of their backyards, taking their collars off if they even had a collar, letting them roam all over the desert, dropping them on the side of the street, not getting their animals spayed and neutered, and they're having these litters, and then they have all these puppies, and they don't know what to do with them. And I've seen a lot of things where people are just dropping mama and puppies on the side of the street, which is absolutely absurd to me. That's one issue that I think you can't really put too much blame on shelters for, because they're just taking the animals in, and the more people that are just dropping animals all over the place, the more animals we have. So this is a team effort. The public has to do a better job in helping maintain the animal population and not having all these dogs and cats, just be roaming the streets. That's not on the animal shelter. That's on us as a general public. And there needs to be better education in that and trying to help alleviate that problem. And I think that's something that we don't talk about enough, or there's not enough in the media or wherever it needs to come from, whether it's the government or I don't know who, but we need a better education system on educating people about animals and the responsibility that it takes owning an animal. I got 3 pups. 2 of them we had, and 1 we just got 3 months ago. We actually saved a little Frenchie from the Apple Valley Animal Shelter. Never in my wildest dreams that I think we'd have 3 dogs, but we have 3 dogs, and I love it. I'm a dog guy, and they're part of our family, and I just couldn't imagine ever taking them and dropping them out on the street or opening the gate and letting them roam across the unincorporated areas here. I just couldn't see it. But with that said, I want to take this Voice of Apple Valley deep dive and get into something that I found after our first podcast. I went back and just started doing some research on a lot of different things, policies, procedures, state law on certain things, and then looking specifically at the Apple Valley Animal Shelter. I looked into the contract that the town of Apple Valley has with the County of San Bernardino. So for those who don't know, the County of San Bernardino does not have an animal shelter here in the high desert. The closest county animal shelter is in Devore. So what the county has done, they've been in contract now, I think it's going on 12 years total now, with the town of Apple Valley to utilize the Apple Valley Animal Shelter as a county shelter per se. So what'll happen is, like where I live in unincorporated Apple Valley, if there's dogs roaming, or you lose your dog, or any animal that comes from the unincorporated area, even outside of Apple Valley, it could be unincorporated Lucerne or wherever, county areas, those animals will go to the Apple Valley Animal Shelter under contract between the county and the town. So when I went back and read that contract, I wanted to kind of understand that little dynamic that goes on with the animal shelter. I found this line item stipulation in the contract that I thought was interesting. And then what I did was I reached out to some of the cat advocates that I've had contact with to find out if this had ever been implemented. And I'm going to bring this up for you right now. This is line item 13, and this is the county contract with the town of Apple Valley. This is one of the line items and one of the things that is in the contract. There are other requirements, but this is the one that caught my attention. And after I did some research with cat advocates, I found out that this has not happened. So when you read this, it's pretty simple. It's 3 sentences, and I think it's relatively clear on what it says. County will allocate an additional $100,000 in the contract for a community cat TNVR trap, neuter, vaccinate, return program of cats taken to AVS by residents. Residents will be responsible for returning cats to the unincorporated area. County will provide cat traps for residents to rent under their program. I'm going to read it one more time. County will allocate an additional $100,000. So basically what that means is there's a lump sum that the town was getting from the county to take care of these animal services for county unincorporated animals. They've added an additional $100,000 above and beyond the other fees in the contract. And I'm really sticking on this because you'll see here in a minute why I'm sticking on this. $100,000 in the contract. 3 important words, in the contract, for a community cat TNVR program of cats taken to AVS. AVS is Apple Valley Animal Shelter. So if you take the community cat in to AVS, you should be able to have the TNVR program performed on the cat. You should be able to rent a cage, which it says here that the county provides under the program, to go out and trap the cat and bring it in. And then it's your responsibility after to put the cat back into the community. And for those who don't know, on this program, what they do, I didn't know this either until I found this out. They'll snip the cat's ear so that the cats will be identifiable. So you'll know that that cat is vaccinated and neutered, and it's cool. It's not going to reproduce, not going to spread disease and all that stuff. So I would leave that up because I want to make sure you guys understand what that says. Let's do it one more time, just for fun. Let's do this one more time. County will allocate an additional $100,000 in the contract for a community cat TNVR trap, neuter, vaccinate, return program of cats taken to AVS by residents, taken to Apple Valley Animal Shelter. Doesn't say taken to Victorville, doesn't say taken to Devore, doesn't say taken to San Bernardino, doesn't say loaded up on a plane and shipped somewhere, book a cruise, put the cat on a cruise. It says for cats taken to AVS by residents. And it also says an additional $100,000 above and beyond the contract. So this contract was approved in the summer of 24. It's going on about 7 months now on a 12-month contract. The county board voted yes on it. The town approved it and signed it. This is an initiated contract. It's in full effect. But this line item, for some mysterious reason, the money has not been paid to the town. This program has not been implemented whatsoever. And I think it's key when you see the emails I'm about to show you with my correspondence on this specific line item, why this gets real muddy for the county and the town of Apple Valley. So after reading that and verifying with cat advocates that this has not been happening, reached out first to District 1 County Supervisor Paul Cook's office. I had a phone conversation with one of his staff members asking for an email address to where I could send some questions and get this documented in writing. So I sent an email and asked some specific questions. Hey, where's this 100,000? Where's this TNVR program? And what about the traps and all this other good stuff? So the response that I get, I got to back this up here. Sorry, this thing hit before I'm going to pause this real quick. So I get this email back. This is January 21st. So that shows you how long this has been going on. It is now February 14th. It's almost a month now. This has been an ongoing process for over a month to try and get answers on this one 3-sentence line item. So this is the response that I got from Supervisor Paul Cook's office. Good morning, Mr. Famiano. Thank you for your emails and your concern and advocacy on this issue. Apologies for my delay in responding as county offices were closed yesterday in observance of the holiday. I confirmed with our Animal Care and Control Division as well as the town shelter that the $100,000 you mentioned has not been allocated to the town. So Supervisor Cook's office is saying what I just read is incorrect. County will allocate an additional $100,000 in the contract for a community cat TNVR program of cats taken to AVS by residents. Yet, the response that I'm getting from Supervisor Cook's office says the $100,000 you mentioned has not been allocated to the town. County will allocate an additional $100,000 in the contract for a community cat TNVR program. So, first thing I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. The thing says it's being allocated to the town, but now my supervisor's office is telling me it's not allocated to the town. So those funds mentioned in our contract with the shelter are to be administered by the county in planning and operating mobile vaccination neuter events throughout the high desert. Interesting. Mobile vaccination and spay and neuter events mobile around the desert. Well, line item 13 has no mention of mobile anything. It says you're going to get $100,000, town of Apple Valley, for residents to bring cats in to AVS. Interesting. Okay. Several of these have already taken place, and more will be planned in the future. Should you have any more specific, I'm going to let this catch up here. I hit play a little bit too late. Should you have any more specific, there we go, questions, please feel free to direct them to Director Dugas. He is the head of County Department of Public Health, who you have included on previous emails. So I did copy the County Department of Public Health Director Dugas, I am hoping I'm saying his name right, on my emails. So supervisor's office is saying, well, the $100,000 that you read in that contract is really not for the town. Okay. And the program that's actually in the contract, it's really not the program that it's really meant for. It's meant for these mobile clinics around the high desert. Interesting. So after that, what I did was I made a call to county administrative offices. I was trying to get a hold of the county controller, auditor, trying to find out, has this money been paid out to anybody? At that time, back on January 21st, I hadn't had an answer to that. So left my information with the county admin, asked to get a call back. About 2 hours later, I get a call from District 1 Supervisor Paul Cook's staff telling me that basically, well, first asking me, well, why are you calling county admin? I was like, well, because you didn't give me the answer I wanted. I'm trying to, your answer made no sense to me. So I was trying to get more clarification on this. I don't think they were happy that I called county admin, but hey, that's what happens, right? If you don't get the answer from one person, you got to go to somebody till you get the right answer, because that answer didn't gel with what that line item says. So in that conversation, I was basically told that I did not know how to read a contract. Yeah, that I misread the contract. And I was thinking, wow, how do you misread this? This is pretty simple English. County will allocate an additional $100,000 in the contract for a community cat TNVR program of cats taken to AVS by residents. Residents will be responsible for returning cats to the unincorporated area. County will provide cat traps for residents to rent under their program. So I was like, okay, I can't read. You know, it's interesting to me. Government always says to you that they're there for you. When you need us, we'll be there for you. We're always there for you. We're here to serve you. But when you actually need government to serve you, you're told things like that. You can't read. So I left that alone, stopped dealing with Supervisor Paul Cook's office because I wasn't getting any answers there. After that phone conversation, I received an email from the County Department of Public Health Communications Director, who said they would get back to me and answer my questions. And I thought, well, that's interesting because I got an answer from Paul Cook's office. So let's see what happens here. So I had some various emails back and forth. This is one of the emails. I got to rewind this guy too. These things playing before I wanted to play. So this is from the communications director for San Bernardino County Department of Public Health, responding to basically the same questions I asked Supervisor Paul Cook's office. Good morning, Mr. Famiano. Thank you for your patience. Please see our responses to your questions from your previous emails. San Bernardino County contract number 23590A-1 with the Town of Apple Valley Animal Shelter Services Department includes an allocation of $100,000 for San Bernardino County Animal Care to support trap, neuter, vaccinate, return services for community cats taken to AVS from unincorporated areas of San Bernardino County. Okay, so that's a little bit different than the response I got from Supervisor Paul Cook's office. So it's saying that the money is allocated in the contract. Supervisor Paul Cook's office response was, it's not allocated to the town. This is saying it is allocated to the town, but it's to support the TNVR services for cats from the unincorporated area. Okay, so it's somewhat accurate on what that line item says. It says cats from within the incorporated town of Apple Valley are the responsibility of AVS. AVS does not operate TNVR services, nor were they contractually obligated to establish a TNVR program. Really? Let's see what this says here again. County will allocate an additional $100,000 in the contract for a community cat TNVR program of cats taken to AVS by residents. Sounds like there's a community cat program that should be happening for cats going to Apple Valley. AVS does not have an on-site veterinarian to perform spay-neuter surgeries associated with TNVR. SBCAC contracts with the Paul Mission to deliver mobile spay-neuter services in unincorporated communities of the county. Now, this is key because at the time when I received this email, I had no idea about this Paul Mission contract. I didn't really know much about the mobile part of this, the mobile clinics they were doing. So I went and I looked up the contract between the county and Paul Mission. So Paul Mission is an entity that I'm not trying to cause any heartache with right now because I don't really think this has anything to do with them. The county's the one that's mentioning them to me. So after I did the research on that, the county contracted with Paul Mission to do these mobile spay-neuter TNVR clinics around the high desert and Inland Empire areas of the county. They are paid $100,000 for these mobile clinics. So the $100,000 that was allocated in the Town of Apple Valley contract was a completely separate $100,000 than the $100,000 Paul Mission is receiving from the county to do the mobile clinics. So how anyone can say that the $100,000 in the town contract is to support mobile clinics is beyond me. There's already a separate contract for these mobile clinics. I'll continue with the email. SBCAC contracts with the Paul Mission to deliver mobile spay-neuter services in unincorporated communities of the county. To date, and I don't know, these are the cat advocate's going to have to help with this one. To date, no cats from unincorporated areas of the county have been surrendered to AVS, nor have Apple Valley residents requested TNVR services or traps from AVS or SBCAC. Additionally, SBCAC animal shelters in Devore and Big Bear stopped accepting healthy adult cats on September 1st, 2024. I'm not too clear on this accepting healthy cats thing. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means you can't bring a cat in for TNVR, or you can. But what I find interesting here, it says no cats from unincorporated areas of the county have been surrendered to AVS. Only the cat advocates out there could answer this question for me. Is that correct? Has nobody anywhere in this high desert or close to Apple Valley tried to bring a cat in to the Apple Valley Animal Shelter in the past 7 months, past 12 months? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. The county's saying there hasn't been one cat brought in, which I find fascinating. But maybe you can comment in the comments and let me know if that's accurate. There have been no expenditures to date from the 100,000 TNVR allocation in contract number 2359A-1. Any unexpended funds in this allocation at the end of the contract term will be returned to the San Bernardino County General Fund. Hang with me real quick. I'm just going to take a real quick drink. I got a really dry throat. I'm actually getting over bronchitis, so I finally got my voice back after about 2 weeks. So this last one is very interesting too. There have been no expenditures to date from the 100,000 TNVR allocation in contract number 23590A1. That's the Town of Apple Valley contract. Any unexpended funds in this allocation at the end of the contract term will be returned to San Bernardino County General Fund. So that somewhat gels with that line item, but it doesn't, because there's still 100,000 county taxpayer dollars that are unaccounted for. They haven't been expended. They haven't been spent. That's what the county is saying. Supposedly, they're supposed to help support spay and neuter mobile clinics, but there's already another company that's contracted for spay and neuter clinics. So we have $100,000 that still is not explained the way it should be explained. Who is going to decide who spends that $100,000? It's allocated in the Town of Apple Valley contract. So how could the county decide to spend that money somewhere? The money should be paid to the Town of Apple Valley for what it states in contract line item 13. For a community cat TNVR program of cats taken to AVS by residents. So how the county can say these funds were meant to support mobile clinics when mobile clinics are not mentioned in that line item is absurd. These answers do not gel with what's in that contract. They do a little bit in some regards, but from Paul Cook's office saying the money hasn't been allocated to the town, to the county saying, well, it has been allocated to the town, but it's not really meant for the town. It's meant for other things. But we haven't spent it yet, and the contract's been in effect for 7 months. All I can say on this is a lot of questions still. A lot of questions and not a lot of good answers. So after all of this, what I did was I had not reached out to the Town of Apple Valley yet. So I was like, you know what? I need to reach out to the Town of Apple Valley and see what they're going to say about this. So I emailed Town Manager Doug Robertson, and I copied Animal Services Director Kristen Hall from the Town of Apple Valley. And I'll give some kudos here, because I'm not here to slam everybody and you know, be a total jerk about this with everyone. I got to say that Kristen Hall from the Town of Apple Valley, Animal Services Director, was very diligent in getting back to my email and was very clear and concise on all of her responses to my questions. And I told her that in an email back to her. I said, you know, I appreciate, because some of the stuff I've been getting from the county is just absolutely nuts. And I appreciate, you know, you answering my questions, you know, very legit and honestly, which I thought was very cool, you know. But there's one thing that is a concern for me. And excuse me. One thing that's a concern for me in regards to the email from Kristen Hall, Animal Services Director of the Town of Apple Valley. And it's this right here. So there were a couple questions that I asked that did not get answered. So I asked about the $100,000. Did the town know that this $100,000 that was allocated in their contract was meant for mobile clinics? And did she know if the money had been paid to the town of Apple Valley? And on both of those questions, I got this back. I am not the point of contact for this aspect of the county contract. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. The town of Apple Valley Animal Services director cannot answer for their contract with the county. If the animal services director doesn't know where those funds are or why those funds were written in the contract, what else does she not know about this county contract? I'm under the assumption that the animal services director is the one that's going to implement any contractual agreements between the county or whoever the town is in contract with for animal services to make sure that those policies are implemented. So I don't know if she hasn't read the contract, or maybe that's not her wheelhouse. Maybe in the town, that's not her responsibility to read that contract. I don't know why it wouldn't be. I don't have an answer to that, but I thought it was very odd that the animal services director could not answer for that line item. Very, very strange. But there's a lot of strange things happening with this deep dive that we're doing here into this one specific line item in the contract. And what it does is it raises even more questions, because it makes you wonder, what is going on with our government entities? If this, I mean, think about this. This is crazy to me. This is one line item. It's line item 13, so that shows you how many other line items there are. This is line item 13, a 3-sentence line item that is taking paragraph after paragraph for county and town officials to clarify. If it takes you 12 paragraphs to clarify a 3-sentence line item, that should tell you there's something wrong. It should be as simple as, oh yeah, the $100,000 is in the contract. It's for the town. Oh yeah, it's for a community cap. But that's not what we're getting back. And it just raises some red flags. And I'm not saying that there's theft going on, because I don't think there's theft going on necessarily, but it starts bringing in words like misallocation, misappropriation, misuse. There's a lot of misses going on here. You could pick any one of those three, and it could probably fit what is happening with this money. You don't allocate money in a contract with a specific entity for a specific purpose and then come back and say, well, no, that money really wasn't meant for that person that we contracted with. And really what the program was really not the program that it was supposed to be used for, because that's what the answer is at this moment. I mean, this is third grade contract class here. A third grader could read it. I know Supervisor Paul Cook's office thinks I can't read the contracts, but I'm pretty sure a third grader could read this contract and understand what that meant. So I don't know where this is going to lead. I've done a public records request with the county, asking for emails and any type of correspondence and payment records for this specific contract between the county and the town. There has to be some type of communication. The odd thing is, just the other day, I received back an email that said there were no records found for my request, which I thought was fascinating. I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, how could there be no records? The town signed the contract. There had to be some communication to even get the contract signed. Where was that communication? So what I did is I sent another request, and then about 2 hours later, I got an email back saying, under my original request number, we're still looking for records and we will get back to you by February 27th or something like that. So I was like, well, wait a minute. You guys just sent me something saying there's no record of any correspondence between this contract. And then I sent in another request, and then you jump back on and a few hours later and tell me, well, we're still looking. So let's look at this. Let's look at this some way and somehow in a little bit more of a microscope. There's a 3-sentence line item with $100,000 mentioned in it that county officials can't clearly explain why that money is not for what that money is for. Why that money that's supposed to be for a program is not really the program that it's supposed to be for. The town of Apple Valley is saying they have no idea about these additional funds, even though they signed the contract. The county has given multiple excuses for what this is, so the excuses don't even match up. You request records from the county. The county says there are no records for the request, but then you send another request, and then 2 hours later you get a thing back saying, well, your original request is still active. We're just trying to find these records, and it might take longer. So that's where we're at. There's still 100,000 county tax dollars that haven't been spent, haven't been paid, can't be really accounted for, and nobody seems to know the answer for it. It's absolutely the most ridiculous thing you could expect from your government. County, state, federal, local, whatever level, it doesn't really matter. It's just amazing to me that this is happening. It shouldn't happen, but it is happening. And like I said, it just leads you to wonder how many other county contracts or town of Apple Valley contracts have things like this in it that cannot be explained. That does not bode well for public confidence in the government handling of our tax dollars. It just doesn't. And I hope, in the next week or two or so, we get better clarification on why this happened. I mean, honestly, it seems like somebody absolutely screwed up, and they screwed up big time. And a lot of people screwed up big time in this. And ultimately what I did in one of my last emails to the county, I basically put in an ask and said, well, here's what I think should happen. I'm not really a cat advocate, but I guess I'm advocating for the cat advocates in this regard. I think the cat advocates would be really appreciative of the fact if that $100,000 that ultimately is stated should be used for a community cat TNVR program, the county should pay the town the money. The town should take that $100,000 and figure out how to implement a community cat TNVR program for the next 2 or 3 months, whether it's through mobile clinics, whether it's through a local veterinarian, whatever it is. Take that money, it's already allocated for that program, and use that money for that program. So you have the Paw Mission contract for $100,000. You have this additional $100,000. That's $200,000 total to get these cats TNVR'd. I think that will go a long way to gain some public trust back and show that you're making an effort here. I mean, the reasoning that, well, if the money doesn't get spent, it's going to go back into the county general fund. No. That's not good enough. And that's why I asked the county to take that money and spend it. And let's get these cats TNVR'd. And like I said, I'm not a cat advocate. I don't hate cats. I'm just not a cat guy. I'm a dog guy. But I think people have been asking for this for a very, very long time. And it's obvious you have the money there, so make it happen. Let's get this thing done. So there is a deep dive, and hopefully that was not confusing, because it's taken me a while to really wrap my head around all of this. It just shows us that we have some very inefficient government, and maybe not corrupt government, but inefficient government. And it takes us, the public, to actually make this thing work efficiently. And shouldn't, but that's our role that we need to play as members of the public in watching our tax dollars and making sure that they're allocated and appropriated and used according to the way it's written in contracts. And I don't know. We'll see where this leads. Not over by far at all. And that is a deep dive into an update on the Apple Valley Animal Shelter and the contract between the County of San Bernardino and the town of Apple Valley. Coming up on our next Voice of Apple Valley podcast, my guest is going to be new city council member from the city of Barstow, excuse me, John Tex Williams. He's a brand new city council member, never been in politics before. Excuse me. And we're going to be talking about similarities between Barstow and Apple Valley, similar issues and things like that, and what it takes to actually run for city council position for the very first time, especially for somebody that's never done politics before. And I want to pass that along to everybody so that people can maybe get a little bit of motivation to maybe do that here in Apple Valley. So that'll be coming up on a future Voice of Apple Valley podcast real soon. City council member John Tex Williams will join us, and we have a lot more podcasts lined up for the rest of the year that we're going to be doing. We're trying to do one a month and hopefully get those out, mid-month or so. So our next one will be coming up here real soon. Appreciate your time. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comments, and let's see what we can get resolved and maybe get that $100,000 spent appropriately and get this CAT TV TNVR program implemented once and for all, and we can get this issue behind us. Appreciate your time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me, the Voice of Apple Valley.